This topic should have been entitled, How to Actually Make a Profit from Your Business and Not Let It All Go Down the Toilet like what happens in most businesses. Maybe that would be a better topic. All right, bookkeeping. You're going to want to take notes. Get out a pen, get out a piece of paper, something to write down. Ready? By the way, if you invest in a business and the person who is in charge of the business does not understand this stuff, you should understand that you are investing in a business that is being managed by a person with their eyes closed. Very, very bad. All right? So, bookkeeping. Why does bookkeeping matter? Okay, so I had this idea for an exercise. Let's do it very, very quickly. Everyone please just cooperate. Stand up, stand up, stand up. All right, put your stuff down. Just stand up, stand up. Deanna, you're supposed to be getting that, not this. Come on, quick. All right, everyone stand up. All right, now close your eyes. Close your eyes. Come on, just close your eyes. Close your eyes and go to the door. Keep your eyes closed and find your way to the door. Quickly, quickly. With your eyes closed. Your eyes are supposed to be closed, not open. Okay, you can stop now. You all got the point. That's what it's like to run a business without good bookkeeping. I'm serious. That's exactly what it's like to run a business without good bookkeeping. My business has grown something like 8,000 or 11,000% in the last 10 years. In 2009, I was flat broke. Like seriously, my wife had recovered from a long-term illness. We lost all our money. We burned through all of our credit. We liquidated all of our assets. We lost our house to foreclosure. Our business is now Inc. 5000, fastest growing company every year since 2015. Knowing your numbers allows you to navigate all the trials and tribulations and ins and outs of everything that's going on in your business. Knowing your numbers empowers you to make proactive decisions and not just guesswork. Knowing your numbers allows you to determine whether this marketing campaign is working or not. Knowing your numbers allows you to know whether this vendor is doing the job you need them to do and giving you the ROI you're looking for or not. Knowing your numbers allows you to determine whether your staff is doing what they're supposed to be doing because you attach key performance indicators to their job descriptions, and that way you can be ruthless on the performance and not such an asshole to the people. Knowing the numbers in a DAO lets you know whether the people in the DAO are doing what the people in the DAO are supposed to be doing or not. You get what I'm saying? So bookkeeping is the foundation for all of this. And if you don't have good bookkeeping, then you can't have objective management of the venture. Whether the venture is a DAO, whether the venture is an NFT business, whether the venture is a new platform you're creating or a new community that you're building, whatever it is, it can't be professionally managed without good bookkeeping. So when someone blows off bookkeeping, what they're basically saying is they don't take the management of the business seriously, and that's a bad thing. All right. That's why bookkeeping is important. Now let's talk about profit. I'm going fast because I don't want to run out of time, like I've done the last 5 times. Profit. So what is profit? Profit is any time you exchange something that you value less to get something that you value more. That's what profit is. Profit can be measured financially. You exchange $1 to get something that you value at $2, you've made a financial profit. Yes? Profit can also be measured in terms of personal sacrifices and personal profits, right? You're all making a personal investment to be here. I could be out on my boat today. I could be with my family out on my boat today. Instead, I've chosen to sacrifice the opportunity to be out on my boat with my family today. And instead, I'm here on the stage because I have evaluated and figured that being here is worth more to my long-term interests than enjoying the day on the boat. So I'm investing the opportunity cost to be on the boat with the family today in order to be here with all of you because I think this will lead to something bigger and better, like a bigger, better boat even, right? So profit can be measured financially. Profit can be measured in terms of the investments of time and energy. Why is this important? Because a lot of the businesses that are happening in the blockchain industry, a lot of the businesses that are happening are requiring sweat equity. People are making investments of their time. People are making investments of their energy. People are making investments of their opportunity cost. They could be doing something else. And because they don't understand what profit really is, they're not making rational, intelligent, strategic decisions about where and how to invest their time and energy. And what usually happens when someone makes that mistake is it creates unnecessary tension that destroys the relationship. So for example, you ask people, so how much have you invested in your startup? And they say, well, nothing. It's all sweat equity. But that's not true. Because what you could be then asking is, all right, well, let's suppose you ditched this startup and you just went out and got a regular job. How much could you earn? Well, if I just went out and got a regular job, I could make $250,000. Okay, great. And how long have you not been making $250,000 because you've been working on this startup? Well, I've been at it for a year. Great. Well, then you've invested $250,000 of opportunity cost into the venture, right? People aren't thinking in these terms, and these terms are not being put into their operating agreements. All right, we're talking about bookkeeping. We're not going sideways. The third way that profit should be measured financially, personally, and last is professionally, right? Because hopefully everyone's doing what you're doing to make the world a better place. I know I am. Everything about all of the businesses that I invest in is that they have some way, shape, or form in which they're making the world a better place. It doesn't always have to be some huge grand gesture and I'm curing some childhood disease. It could be something as simple as, well, my bookkeeping business. I have a multi-million-dollar bookkeeping business that makes the world a better place by empowering entrepreneurs like all of you to do great, amazing, wonderful things. So we live like vicariously through the great stuff you do by doing the bookkeeping, by doing the job as the CEO, by doing the job as the COO, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So when you're thinking about profit, you're measuring it financially, you're measuring it personally, you should be measuring it professionally. Okay, bookkeeping. You're going to want to have someone called a chief financial officer in your business. If your business is successful at all, you're not only you're eventually going to need someone who has the credentials, the experience as a CFO. We serve as the CFO for a couple of hundred businesses. That's one of the things we do. CFOs can't do what they do without good bookkeeping. Got it? Bad bookkeeping leads to an impossible task for a good CFO, so you need good bookkeeping. When you're interviewing your CFOs, when your startup venture becomes very successful, if your CFO is not asking a lot of questions about the bookkeeping, that's a red flag. You're talking to the wrong candidate to be the CFO of your business. That's just a little tip. All right. So, profit and loss. Profit and loss is one of the three key financial reports that you want to be getting from a good bookkeeper. A bookkeeper who does not give you a P&L every month. A bookkeeper who does not sit down with you and walk you through your P&L every month to point out what they have noticed about things you should pay attention to. That is a bookkeeper that I would say sucks pretty bad. A good bookkeeper should be giving you a P&L every month, whether you ask for it or not, and they should be chasing you down and forcing you to look through it. A P&L is profit and loss statement. It really should be called a profit or loss statement because it's not and, it's or. You're either making a profit or you're making a loss. So a P&L is basically all the sources of revenue that the business generates against all the expenses that the business incurs. Got it? The foundation of all bookkeeping, the foundation for all accounting, the foundation for every profit map. You should have a profit map. One of the things you write down, need a profit map. Your profit map is based on your chart of accounts. A chart of accounts is nothing more than a list of sources of revenue by category, a list of expenses by category, right? So if you've got 3 different lines of business, you've got 3 different items on income of your chart of accounts. And then you've got obviously all the different categories of expense, like employees, rent, insurance, electricity, developer costs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You understand the basic idea of a chart of accounts? What makes a chart of accounts a chart of accounts is that you take these categories and you put numbers to them, right? So the income will all be, let's say, the 100 category. And your first category of income will be 101. And then the second category of income will be 102. And the third category of income will be 103. And then you get to your expenses. You get the idea? So your employment expenses will be, let's say, the 200 category, and the executives will be the 210 category, and then the developers will be the 250 category, 251, 252, 253. You all getting the idea? I'm talking fast because I got to cover a lot in a short time, but I want to give you an overview so you know how to be empowered consumers of bookkeeping services, so you know how to be empowered consumers of CFO services, so you know how to be empowered owners of your businesses. And if you're going to invest in someone else's business, you need to make sure that this stuff is under control and you can understand this stuff, all right? So you got your chart of accounts. Now you take that chart of accounts and you repeat it 12 times. So this is all of our list of expenses, all of our categories of revenue for the first month of the year, revenue and expenses for the first month of the year. This is all the projected revenue and projected expenses for the second month of the year. And these are all the same categories, copy paste for the third month of the year. You get where I'm going with this? And if you repeat this 12 times, what do you have? You have a 12-month budget. A budget is a forward-looking strategic document. A record of what has happened in the past is not a budget. That's just a record of what's happened in the past in your business. Your budget, which is based on your chart of accounts, is how you navigate to profitability. A person who does not have a 12-month forward-looking budget is basically saying to you, I have no plan for how I'm going to get to profitability. I'm just going to work hard and hope for the best. Is that the kind of business you want to invest in? I don't think so. All right. Cash flow projections. If a budget is your list of categories of revenue repeated 12 times, month by month by month by month, a cash flow projection is basically the same categories divided by week. So every week, a responsible business owner, every week, the CEO who runs my businesses, I used to do this myself, now I have a CEO who does it. Every week, they sit down and they say, where is here's all the list of revenue that we're planning to get every week, week by week by week by week by week for the next 8 to 12 weeks. And here's all the categories of expenses, week by week by week by week for the next 6 to 12 weeks. Has anyone ever experienced a cash crunch in business? Anyone ever heard of a cash crunch in business? Anyone ever had someone say, oh, we're doing great, we're very profitable, we're just having a temporary cash crunch? Anyone ever heard of that? Yeah? What a cash crunch is where they don't have the weekly revenue aligned with the weekly expenses. When you have a good CFO working with a good set of books, with a good bookkeeper, you're able to finagle things around and make sure that your revenue weeks line up with your expense weeks so you avoid a cash crunch. And if you are going to have a cash crunch, you know about it 6 to 8 weeks in advance. Is there anyone here who's so uncreative and so inept that you can't figure out how to navigate your way around a cash crunch if you know that you've got 6 to 8 weeks to figure it out? Right? You're all smart people. You're all creative people. You're some of the smartest creative people probably around. That's why you're here. If I tell you that your expenses are out of alignment with your revenue, and I say, and therefore you can't pay rent tomorrow, you're screwed. But if I tell you that, hey, in 8 weeks, you're not going to be able to make payroll. In 8 weeks, you're not going to be able to do your scheduled development expense. You can figure things out. This is what good bookkeeping does. It empowers you to make proactive decisions. It almost like gives you a crystal ball. Got it? All right, going real fast because I just got the 5-minute warning. Budget, cash positions. So these are the financial, so profit and loss statement. The whole thing is based on a chart of accounts. The chart of accounts repeated 12 times is the budget. Chart of accounts repeated week by week by week, 6 to 8 times is a cash flow projection. That's how you avoid cash crunches. A budget variance report. Every month your bookkeeper should be giving you a budget variance report. A budget variance report has the following categories, or the following columns. The first column is what we expected. This is what we were expecting to happen in the last 30 days. 30 days ago when we made our budget for the next month, this is what we were expecting to happen. This is the revenue we were expecting to get, category by category by category. These are the expenses we are expecting to incur, category by category by category. This is the profit or loss we are expecting to realize, month by month by month. Yes? It's the first category, the first column. The second column is called reality. What actually happened? This is what we were expecting to happen. This is what actually happened. The third column is a percentage difference. We were expecting to generate $100,000 from this line of revenue. We in fact generated $200,000 from this line of revenue. We exceeded our expectations by $100,000. Yes? The fourth column is the reason why. Why did we exceed the revenues by $100,000? Why did we exceed the expenses by $25,000 or by percentage? You get what I'm saying? So who thinks it's a great thing that we exceeded our revenues by $100,000? We expected to generate $100,000 from selling widgets. We sold $200,000. Instead, we generated $200,000 of revenue by selling widgets. Who thinks that's a good thing? Who thinks that's a bad thing? Okay, I see that my work here is not done. The correct answer is I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing until I figure out why, right? So what if the reason why we generated $200,000 from selling widgets is because some idiot put the wrong price on our website and we accidentally sold the widgets at half price and we lost money on them, but we did generate $200,000. Is that a good thing or a bad thing that we generated twice as much revenue as we expected to now? It's a bad thing, right? What if the reason why we generated $200,000 in widgets is because of, I don't know, something to do with the timing, and the reason why we generated $200,000 in widgets is because one of our best customers said, you know what, instead of buying $100,000 of widgets from you this month and another $100,000 of widgets from you next month, I'm just going to buy $200,000 of widgets from you this month, I'll skip next month, and I'll go back to buying $100,000 of widgets from you the month after that. Now, is it a good thing or a bad thing, or it just is what it is? See, that's the trap you fall into if you have a bookkeeper who sucks. You don't know what's really going on, and therefore you don't know the right questions to ask, and your bookkeeper who sucks doesn't know enough to help you really evaluate and get at the reasons why things are so you can determine if things are good or bad. Everything is in context. The final category in the budget variance report is the category that you as the business owner or your leadership team have to take responsibility for, and that is, what are we going to do about it, right? So let's say you had projected that you were going to spend $50,000 on development costs, right, this month, and you spent $25,000 a month on development costs. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? We were projecting to spend $50,000 on dev costs. We actually spent $25,000 on dev costs. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Who says it's a good thing? Who says it's a bad thing? You have to ask why. Why did we spend half what we were expecting to spend on dev costs? Well, the reason that you spent half the money you spent on dev costs is because you hired a raging fucking asshole to be the supervisor, and everyone fucking quit. And now you're behind schedule because you hired an asshole to manage the team. Shit, we got to get our dev expenses back up quick because we got to catch up. This is what goes wrong if you don't know your numbers. You don't see these things happening, right? All right, that's the budget variance report. Cash positions. You got cash positions. You should have savings. You should be allocating money every month to different things. You should have sinking funds, right? You know those computers that you just bought? Well, they are wearing out day by day. Am I right? No, they're collector's items. No, they're garbage waiting to go to the scrap heap, right? And so every month you put a little bit of money aside, 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 so that before the computers start really slowing down the dev team, you can replace them because you've already been budgeting ahead of time. Same thing with the furniture. You ever go to someone's office or someone's house and like the furniture, you can tell it's like it's seen better days? And it leaves a really bad impression on you because you're like, yeah, something's not right. There's a hole in the, like a little frayed or something, right? Because what happened is it's not like they're blind and they don't know that their furniture looks like shit. The problem is they don't have the cash to replace it because they weren't planning ahead because their bookkeeper sucks. You get what I'm going with this? This makes a difference. And you can apply this to the brand. You can apply this to the appearance. You can apply this to the technology. You can apply this to every part of the business. You need to be anticipating where you're going to have to make expenses. In my home, I've got a sinking fund for my roof. I've got 6 air conditioning units in my home. When I got to replace my air conditioning units, that's 6 times 4. It's $240,000 to replace all my air conditioning units. When the time comes, they got to get replaced. So every month, I put a little money aside, put a little money aside, put a little money aside. So I'm not sitting there sweating my ass off in a hot fucking house thinking, gee, it's not convenient to come up with $250,000 for air conditioning right now. No, I've got the money saved for the air conditioning. Can everyone see how you apply this to every part of your business? If your bookkeeper, come on, say it with me, doesn't suck. Got it? All right, you'll learn. All right, cash positions. All right, now let's talk taxes. Raise your hand if anyone works for your venture, we'll call it, on U.S. soil. Keep your hand up if you think that you don't have to worry about taxes because they're all 1099 independent contractors. All right, if we had some employment lawyers here, they'd all be laughing right now. Let me tell you how this works, how your 1099 contractors leave you out to dry. Be very, very wary of your 1099 contractors. I would very highly recommend that if you take your business at all seriously, you consult with an employment lawyer to make sure you actually meet the standards for a 1099 contractor. Because if you don't, here's how it will play itself out. As an employer, you are required to withhold Social Security taxes. 6.2% for you, 6.2% you withhold for the employee and pay it off to the government. Medicare, you got to hold 1.4% for you, 1.4% you withhold from the employee. Unemployment taxes and Medicaid taxes. All right. So let's just talk about a common, an all too common cautionary tale that I see all the time. You got an independent contractor. You pay your independent contractor, your 1099 independent contractor, let's say you pay them $140,000 a year, right? if you're paying your independent contractor $140,000 a year, you as the employer are supposed to be withholding about $11,000 a year in Social Security and FICA taxes. You understand what I'm saying here? Yes? Need some head nods. Yes, you get it? But you don't, because after all, they're an independent contractor. Yes? So you don't worry about it, because they're an independent contractor, 1099 and everything. You also don't withhold any. You also don't withhold any income tax for them, because after all, they're an independent contractor. Yeah. And guess what your independent contractor did? Your independent contractor hired a bookkeeper who sucks, and they didn't pay their own taxes, right? And so this is what it sounds like when the authorities come and knock on their door and they say, hey, you owe us $35,000 in back taxes. You haven't been paying. And you know what your independent contractor says? You know what your independent contractor says? Come on. How could you guys not know this? Your independent contractor says, wait a second, they were supposed to do that for me. And so the government comes to you and they knock on the door and they say, hey, where's the $30,000 you're supposed to withhold for this employee? And you say, I wasn't supposed to withhold it from the employee. They were an independent contractor. And then they go to the independent contractor, and the independent contractor says, I wasn't a 1099 independent contractor. I was an employee. They were supposed to withhold the taxes for me. And then the government goes back to you and says, hey, they say that they were an employee, not a 1099 independent contractor. And you say, no. We have an agreement. We even recorded it on the blockchain. That makes it real. And you know what the government will do with that story? They will take it to the bathroom and wipe their ass with it. That's what they're going to do. They're going to say, pay up. And you're going to say, but they were an independent contractor. And the government's going to say, yeah, but you know what? We've got our hand around your throat, not theirs. And you're the one that's got deep pockets, and they don't. So pay up. And you're going to be what we call fucked. That's a technical term. You've got to take this stuff seriously. Not having a good bookkeeper, settling for a bookkeeper who sucks, or turning a blind eye to doing good bookkeeping, it sets you up for problems. And if you have any hope in the world of raising capital, managing capital, working with investors, you've got to take this stuff seriously. And the sooner you do it, the better. Because when the investors come along and they say, I love you, I love your idea, this is going to change the world, and you're the most wonderful, brilliant person in the world, and I like to invest in people. Yeah, well, after they're done blowing all that smoke up your ass, they're lawyers who say to them, hey, we need to do due diligence before you just fork over $1 million to this person. They're going to start asking you questions about this stuff, and if your bookkeeping is in shambles, you're going to miss a deal. All right. I'm not saying you can't raise $1 million from some idiot who doesn't know better than to conduct proper due diligence. I mean, dumb shit happens all the time, right? I'm saying serious investors are going to expect you to run your business like a serious entrepreneur. All right. Sales tax. Okay, last thing, just a little word on penalties. Penalties can range from up to 2% to 15%. So if you're running, let's say, a $10 million business, you're probably going to have, $2 to $3 million of labor cost. Seem about reasonable? $2 to $3 million of labor cost means you're going to have about $200,000 to $300,000 in taxes. And let's say you do this for 2 or 3 years, you got $1 million worth of taxes that you could get hung out to dry on. So lots and lots of reasons why to take this stuff seriously. Okay, John, that was bookkeeping. This is where, no.